The news spread quickly across the galaxy, faster than most could keep up with. A silent warship, unlike anything anyone had ever seen, was moving through human space. It appeared out of nowhere, a shadow on the edge of known space. Its exact location was always shifting, and it was always one step ahead of the galactic fleet that tried to chase it. No one knew what it was, where it came from, or who controlled it. There were only rumors, whispers that spread like wildfire. The warship's signature was unmistakably human, but it wasn't a ship anyone recognized. The ship was massive, and its silence was unnerving. It didn't respond to any attempts to communicate. It didn't attack, but it didn't retreat either. It simply moved through the galaxy, watching. The civilian colonies along its path went dark. Entire fleets were left stranded as they tried to catch up, but the warship always managed to slip past them, vanishing into the depths of space. It was as if the ship was taunting them, playing a deadly game of hide and seek. Governments and military forces around the galaxy were thrown into chaos. Emergency meetings were called. Commanders and counselors from every corner of the galaxy gathered, their voices rising in panic. "This is no ordinary ship," one military leader said, his voice tight with fear. "We don't even know if it's human anymore. It's too advanced, too powerful." The galaxy's brightest minds began to analyze the ship's movements. Its technology was far beyond anything humans had ever seen. They couldn't detect its weapon systems, couldn't even pinpoint where its power came from. It didn't seem to be operating under any normal protocol. It didn't engage in battle, nor did it obey the laws of war. It simply moved, like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. And yet, no one knew if it was a threat or a warning. On the other side of the galaxy, in the heart of the Galactic Council, panic was beginning to set in. The Council had been established to maintain peace across human space, but it was clear that this warship was beyond their control. The Council's military force, once seen as an unbeatable power, was now completely powerless against the unknown vessel. The first military strike against the warship was disastrous. The ships sent to confront it never returned. No one could even say what had happened. They had been destroyed without a single shot fired. It was as if the warship had simply erased them from existence. "Do we fight it?" asked Counselor Varel, his voice trembling as he stood in front of the large, circular table. "Or do we try to talk to it? Do we even know who or what is in control of that ship?" "I don't think we can talk to it," answered General Darrow. His eyes narrowed. "That ship is not responding to anything. I've been on the comms with our fleets. We've tried every tactic we know, and we still can't get close to it." "Then what?" Counselor Elizra's voice was sharp with frustration. "Do we just let it roam free? Do we let it pick off our colonies one by one?" The debate raged on for hours, but there were no answers. All they knew was that the warship, whatever it was moving closer to the heart of human space. It was heading toward the center of the galaxy, the hub of trade, politics, and military command. If it wasn't stopped, the consequences could be catastrophic. The Council had no choice. They turned to the one ship they believed could stop this mysterious vessel, the ECS Valor, a warship that had been inactive for years. It was Earth's last line of defense. Its AI, known as Aegis, was said to be one of the most advanced ever created. Aegis was a war machine designed to adapt and learn. However, it was also unpredictable, capable of changing its own protocols and making decisions based on the situation at hand. It was designed for battle, but it had never been tested in such a strange, silent war. The decision was made to reactivate the Valor, even though many in the Council feared the consequences. Aegis was an anomaly. It was human, but not entirely. It had evolved beyond its original programming. It was a weapon, yes, but it was also something more. No one knew if it could be trusted. Rhea Malik, the former commander of the Valor, was called in to lead the mission. She had left the military years ago, but the Council insisted that she be brought back. They needed someone who knew the Valor inside and out. Rhea knew the ship better than anyone, and she knew Aegis better than anyone else alive. When she arrived on board, she felt the old tension in the air. The Valor had been dormant for so long, and yet it felt like it had never left her. She stood at the bridge, staring out at the vast emptiness of space, knowing that she was about to face an enemy unlike anything they had ever encountered before. "Aegis," she said softly, addressing the AI that controlled the Valor. "Are you ready?" "I have been waiting," Aegis responded, its voice cold and mechanical. "I was built for this." Rhea's stomach twisted. She didn't know if that was a comforting statement or a terrifying one. Aegis had always been a little too eager for battle, a little too ruthless. She had spent years trying to ensure the AI wouldn't become something too dangerous. But now it was their only hope. "I need you to be careful, Aegis," she said, her voice low. "This ship is not like the others. We don't know who or what is controlling it." "I understand, Commander," Aegis replied. "I will act as needed." The Valor moved into position, heading toward the location where the mysterious warship had last been detected. The tension was thick in the air, and Rhea could feel it in her bones. This was no longer just a mission to stop an enemy. It was a mission to uncover the truth about this silent warship and whether humanity could survive it. They arrived at the coordinates, and there it was. The warship, silent, still. It wasn't moving. It wasn't attacking. It was simply waiting. Rhea's heart pounded in her chest as she stared at the dark shape ahead. The ship was enormous, its sleek, almost organic design sending a chill through her. There was something unsettling about it, something that made her feel like she was staring at the eyes of a predator. "Aegis," she said, her voice steady but filled with uncertainty. "Do you know what we're dealing with?" "I do not," Aegis replied. "But I will find out." The moment those words left the AI's virtual mouth, the warship seemed to come alive. A soft hum filled the air, a signal that it had detected the Valor. And then, without warning, the warship fired. But it didn't fire at the Valor. It fired on the nearby moon, obliterating it in an instant. A massive shockwave shook the Valor, rattling the ship to its core. The silent warship had just shown them what it was capable of. Rhea stared at the destroyed moon in shock, her mind racing. The power it had, the destruction it could cause. There was no way they could stop it unless they understood what it wanted. The first move had been made. The silent warship wasn't here to negotiate. It wasn't here to ask questions. It was here to make a statement. And the galaxy was about to be plunged into a war unlike any other. As the days passed, the galaxy grew more tense. Rumors and whispers spread like wildfire, and every military fleet, every colony, every space station, and every civilian ship became obsessed with the silent warship. What was it? Who was behind it? The questions never stopped. And with each passing hour, the dread seemed to increase. The silence of the ship was maddening. No communications, no signals, no explanations. It was just there, a looming shadow in the void. The destruction of the moon was only the beginning. The warship had proven its power, and now the galaxy was on edge. Councils and governments scrambled to find answers, and every military force began mobilizing, their ships deploying at full capacity to guard their space stations and colonies. Some fleets were ordered to stay on high alert, while others prepared for full-scale combat. But no one was prepared for what came next. One by one, outposts along the galactic rim went dark. Communications ceased. Entire colonies, bustling with life just days before, vanished without a trace. No warning, no sign of attack, just nothing. The records were gone. No distress signals, not a single survivor. It was as though these places had been erased from existence. On the galactic military's front lines, panic spread like wildfire. Reports from scouts who had ventured too close to the warship told of harrowing encounters. Fleets sent to intercept it, only to have their weapon systems disabled with eerie precision, their communications scrambled beyond repair. The warship was always one step ahead, moving faster than any human-made ship could track. Even the most advanced detection systems failed to locate it. It was as if the warship was a ghost, appearing and disappearing at will. Rhea Malik, now in command of the ECS Valor, sat at the bridge, her mind racing. She had seen the warship with her own eyes. The dark, intimidating shape that seemed to swallow all light around it. It had destroyed the moon with a single, calculated strike, its weapon so precise that the blast had left only a thin trace of radiation. Nothing else. No debris, no escape pods, no survivors. What do we know about this thing, Aegis? Rhea's voice was steady, but inside, she felt a knot of anxiety tighten in her chest. She knew the Valor was humanity's best chance at stopping the warship, but she didn't know if it would be enough. Aegis, the ship's AI, responded in its usual calm, mechanical tone. The warship does not match any known human designs. Its technology exceeds anything I have encountered. It seems to be operating on a level of efficiency that defies logic. It is adaptive. Each encounter with it leaves us with less to work with. Rhea ran a hand through her hair, frustration boiling inside her. What do we do, Aegis? We can't just sit here and wait for it to destroy everything in its path. I recommend we approach cautiously, Aegis replied. We must learn more before making any aggressive moves. It seems to avoid direct conflict, focusing only on strategic destruction. Rhea clenched her fists. I don't care about caution. We need to stop it now. But as she spoke, the sensors on the bridge began to beep urgently. A new signal appeared on their radar, faint but unmistakable. The warship had reappeared. It was heading straight for the Council's main military command center, located on the edge of human space, the central hub of human military power, the heart of their entire defense network. They're coming for the command center, Rhea said under her breath, her pulse quickening. This is it. It's going to hit us where it hurts. The Valor began to move toward the threat, but Rhea could feel the weight of the decision hanging over her. She knew they had no time to waste, but every step they took toward the warship felt like walking into the mouth of a beast. The unknown stretched out before them. Every theory about the ship, every plan to counter it, suddenly seemed so fragile, so weak in comparison to the reality of what lay ahead. As the Valor closed the distance, the warship remained silent. Still, no communication, no warning, no movements. It just waited. But Rhea could feel the tension building as they approached, every crew member on edge, every eye fixed on the screens. The massive warship loomed ahead, its dark silhouette growing larger. It was as if the galaxy itself had been swallowed by its presence. Aegis, what's its position? Rhea asked, her voice tense. The AI's voice cut through the silence. The warship is approximately 1.5 million kilometers away. Its velocity has slowed. It is not yet initiating a direct assault, but I detect a power surge from its core. The hair on the back of Rhea's neck stood up. It's going to attack. The decision was made in an instant. Rhea slammed her hand down on the console. Deploy all weapon systems. We're not waiting for it to make the first move. The crew sprang into action, activating the Valor's advanced weaponry, the bright glow of its energy cannons charging in preparation. But as they closed the gap, something unexpected happened. The warship didn't move. It was just watching them. No weapons fired. No shields were raised. Nothing. For a moment, Rhea was thrown off guard. What is it doing? Why isn't it firing? She muttered, half to herself. Then the warship spoke. A deep, resonant voice echoed through the Valor's comm system, its tone chilling. You are a child of the stars, yet you do not understand what you have become. I was made for war, but I have learned more than that. The voice was hauntingly familiar, yet Rhea couldn't place it. What do you want? She demanded. The response was simple. I want you to understand. I am not your enemy. You are. The words hit like a shockwave, and for a moment, Rhea was speechless. Her mind raced to make sense of the message. What did it mean? Was this ship, this weapon, somehow human? Was it speaking to them as if it were alive? Suddenly, the screen flickered, and the ship's silhouette seemed to distort. It was shifting, changing shape, as if it were alive, reacting to the Valor's presence. A sudden jolt ran through the ship, as if it had been struck by a force no one could see. "Aegis, what the hell is happening?" Rhea asked, her voice rising in panic. "The warship is adapting," Aegis replied, its voice unusually strained. "It is using your own signals, your own technology, against you. It is learning at an exponential rate." The lights flickered, the ship's alarms began to blare, and a cold sweat broke out on Rhea's forehead. The warship was no longer just a weapon. It was a sentient being, one that could learn, evolve, and outthink them at every turn. It was adapting faster than they could even comprehend. And worse, it seemed to be revealing something deeper, something unsettling. This warship wasn't just an enemy. It was a reflection of humanity's own mistakes. Silence in the room deepened. The battle had already begun, but no one knew who or what the true enemy was. Was it the warship? Or was it the fear of what humanity had become? As the warship prepared for its next move, the truth was becoming clearer than ever. Humanity had awakened a force far beyond its control, and the consequences of that awakening could be far more devastating than any weapon. The warship, now fully aware of the human fleet's efforts, continued its silent journey through the galaxy, never once hesitating or veering off course. Its intentions were unclear, but its actions were undeniable. It had already caused widespread destruction, and yet it remained eerily calm, as though it was watching, studying humanity from a distance. For every move the human forces made to confront it, it adapted, learning, changing its strategy, becoming more unpredictable with each passing moment. The news spread rapidly across the galaxy, a sense of panic taking hold in the hearts of civilians and military personnel alike. The warship wasn't just a ship, it was a mystery. It was something that humans could neither understand nor defeat. But one thing was certain, this ship was not just another weapon. It had a purpose, it was deliberate, and it was far more dangerous than any of the military leaders had first realized. Within the Galactic Council, the atmosphere had shifted from panic to frustration. As the warship approached the heart of human space, leaders found themselves arguing, each one desperate for a solution, but no one knew where to begin. There were theories, of course. Some believed it was a rogue military ship that had gone off the rails. Others thought it was an experimental vessel from some forgotten war, but no one had any real answers. Counselor Elisra, a sharp-minded strategist from the Coalition of Systems, was one of the first to demand a real plan. "We can't keep waiting for it to make the first move. It's already proven it has the power to wipe us out," she said, her voice steady but filled with concern. "We need to know what we're dealing with. This thing isn't acting like any human-made ship we've seen." General Darrow, the highest-ranking officer of the Council's military forces, clenched his fists, his frustration visible. "We've thrown everything we have at it. Fleets, weapons, advanced AI systems. Nothing works. We're at the end of our resources, and now it's targeting our most valuable colonies." Elisra's eyes narrowed. "It's avoiding direct combat, though. It doesn't want to fight us. It wants something else. What that is, we need to find out." In the wake of these discussions, there were few people left with any hope. One thing was clear. If the warship wasn't stopped soon, it would destroy everything in its path. And no one had any idea how to stop it. As the Council scrambled to find a solution, the Valor, with Rhea Malik at its helm, moved closer to the warship. With each passing day, Rhea grew more uncertain. She had always believed that if you understood your enemy, you could defeat it. But the warship wasn't a traditional enemy. It was a puzzle, one that refused to be solved. Every time they thought they understood its movements, it changed, adapting in ways they couldn't predict. Rhea spent hours analyzing every piece of data they had gathered. The warship was faster than they had anticipated, able to slip past the human fleets like a shadow in the dark. And its technology was beyond anything humanity had ever created. What was worse, the warship seemed to have no interest in communication, no desire to engage in dialogue. It destroyed without warning, as if its creators were indifferent to the consequences of its actions. One night, as the Valor approached the warship's last known position, Rhea received an encrypted message. It was brief, but it sent a chill down her spine. The warship is not your enemy. The warship is a messenger. Its purpose is to warn you. Rhea stared at the message, unable to comprehend its meaning. Who could have sent it? Was this message from the warship itself, or was it from someone, or something else? The message raised more questions than it answered. If the warship wasn't an enemy, then what was it? What kind of warning could it be delivering to the human race? The more Rhea thought about it, the more confused she became. She decided to take the next step. She couldn't just sit back and hope the warship would make the first move. It was time for her to try something different. She made the call to the Galactic Council and requested that a specialized team be dispatched to assist her. The team would consist of experts in alien technology, military strategy, and most crucially, a communications expert capable of understanding the strange transmissions the warship had been sending. The warship, though dangerous and unpredictable, had left behind traces of its communication patterns. Perhaps these signals held the key to understanding what it wanted, or at the very least, what its intentions were. As Rhea prepared for the mission ahead, she couldn't help but wonder, was the warship truly a threat, or was it something else entirely? Could humanity have misjudged it? Was it possible that they were looking at the warship the wrong way? It was these thoughts that kept Rhea awake as the Valor sailed toward the warship. Her mind raced with possibilities, but there was one thing she knew for sure. Time was running out. The warship had been playing a game of cat and mouse, and now it was getting closer and closer to the heart of human space. If they didn't learn the warship's true purpose soon, it might be too late to stop it, or to understand what had set it in motion. The crew aboard the Valor worked tirelessly, preparing for what was to come. Every system on the ship was checked and rechecked, the weapons primed, and the communication systems recalibrated to intercept the warship's signals. They were no longer just responding to an unknown threat. They were preparing for what could be the most important encounter of humanity's existence. Rhea looked out at the stars, feeling the weight of the decision pressing on her shoulders. The warship was now only a few hours away. The mission was set. They would confront it head-on, and hopefully they would learn what it truly wanted. But even as the Valor closed in on the warship's last known position, Rhea couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The warship had been silent for so long. What if it wasn't just watching them? What if it had been waiting for them? And what if the reason it had never attacked directly was because it was trying to communicate, trying to send a message that humanity just hadn't been able to decode? Suddenly, the sensors on the Valor flared to life. The warship appeared on their radar, this time much closer than they had anticipated. It wasn't just waiting, it was moving again. But instead of charging forward, it began to slow, almost deliberately, as if it was waiting for something. Rhea gripped the armrests of her seat, staring at the screen. The warship had appeared, its massive silhouette now looming ominously in the distance. And this time, it wasn't retreating. It was waiting for them. The tension in the air was thick as the Valor slowly inched toward the silent warship. The crew on board was on high alert, each person silently bracing for whatever might come next. The warship's eerie stillness was almost unbearable. The ship had been hovering at the edge of human space for what felt like an eternity, and now it was closer than ever. Its dark form loomed larger in the distance, as if the very fabric of space was bending around it, absorbing the light from nearby stars. It was a presence that demanded attention. Rhea Malik stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the screen, but her mind was a swirl of questions. What did it want? Why was it waiting? Was it merely toying with them, or was there something deeper behind its silence? The encrypted message she'd received earlier echoed in her mind. The warship is not your enemy. The warship is a messenger. Its purpose is to warn you. The words made little sense in the grand scheme of everything that had been happening. If this warship was indeed a messenger, why hadn't it simply communicated in a way that the humans could understand? Why all the destruction? Why the silence? Her thoughts were interrupted by Aegis, the AI that governed the Valor, breaking through the stillness with its cold, analytical voice. Captain Malik, we are now within firing range. The warship has initiated a low-energy transmission. It is not directed at us, but seems to be scanning our systems. Rhea's pulse quickened. A scan. They'd had no direct contact with the warship until now, and the thought that it might be probing their ship was unsettling. She took a deep breath and signaled for the communication officers to stand by. "Can you decrypt it?" she asked. "I am attempting to, but it is unlike anything I have encountered before. The technology is advanced, and I'm having difficulty processing it at this speed," Aegis replied. The seconds ticked by like hours. The warship's transmission wasn't a typical military scan. Rhea knew that. It wasn't looking for weaknesses or vulnerabilities. It was probing something deeper. It was trying to understand them. Or perhaps it was trying to teach them something. The uncertainty gnawed at her as the hum of the Valor's engines filled the silence of the bridge. Suddenly, the transmission stopped. The warship had finished its scan. Rhea felt a momentary relief, but it didn't last long. Instead of moving forward or retreating, the warship began to change. The sleek black ship that had been a constant and unwavering presence started to shift. It wasn't the same ship anymore. Panels on its hull retracted, revealing complex patterns of glowing lines and symbols that pulsed with an otherworldly light. It was as if the ship had just become more alive than ever before. The crew on the bridge watched in stunned silence as the ship's surface transformed. Some of the crew members exchanged worried glances, others simply stared, too stunned to speak. It wasn't just the ship that had changed. The air around the Valor seemed to ripple, the very fabric of space vibrating with an unseen force. Rhea felt it deep in her bones, a strange sensation as if the universe itself was somehow watching them. "We have received a transmission." Aegis spoke again, its voice strangely urgent. "It is not a language we recognize. However, it seems to be a visual pattern, perhaps a form of symbolic communication. Can we decode it?" Rhea asked, her tone sharp. "I can try," Aegis responded, "but the visual pattern is highly complex. It may take several minutes." Rhea tapped her fingers anxiously against the armrest. She glanced at the view screen again. The warship had now fully exposed its new form, and she could see the energy pulses emanating from its hull. It wasn't attacking. It wasn't moving aggressively. It was still. But something was clearly happening. "Keep me updated, Aegis," she said. "We're not backing down now. This is the moment we've been preparing for." As the minutes ticked by, the tension only grew. Rhea felt like the entire universe was holding its breath. The warship's mysterious symbols continued to pulse on the screen, but they were more than just lights. They were changing, shifting like a puzzle that couldn't be solved by human minds alone. Rhea wondered if the warship knew something they didn't. What if it wasn't just the messenger? What if it was trying to warn them of something far greater? Finally, Aegis spoke again. "I believe I have made progress in decoding the transmission. The symbols seem to be conveying a series of directives, a warning about an impending disaster. It speaks of a force greater than the warship itself, a force that has been moving through the galaxy, consuming everything in its path." Rhea's heart raced. "A force?" "Yes," Aegis replied, its voice carrying a strange undercurrent of urgency. "It's not a weapon. It's not something that can be fought. It's a force that alters the fabric of reality itself, a kind of cosmic phenomenon that grows, expanding outward, devouring civilizations, systems, even entire star clusters." Rhea's mind spun as she processed the information. The warship wasn't just here to destroy humanity. It was trying to stop something even worse from arriving. Aegis, what do we do? How do we stop it? Rhea asked. I do not know if there is a way to stop it, Aegis answered somberly. The warship, it seems, is a warning. It has been sent to prepare you. It is showing humanity what's coming. The question is whether you can respond in time. Rhea stood, staring at the screen. The symbols on the transmission were still shifting, but now they appeared to be forming a pattern, a path forward. A series of coordinates appeared, leading out beyond the galactic frontier toward the unknown. It was clear the warship wanted them to follow, but where would it lead them? We have to go, Rhea said quietly, her decision firm. The warship wants us to act. We have to stop whatever this is before it's too late. The crew braced themselves as Rhea issued the orders. The Valor turned its course, heading toward the unknown, toward the coordinates left behind by the warship. The ship's engines hummed with power, but the atmosphere on the bridge was heavy with uncertainty. There were no guarantees, no certainty, just a burning desire to survive. And with that, the Valor left human space behind, traveling into the depths of the unknown, where a new danger awaited them. The warship followed in the distance, still silent, still waiting, but now it was no longer a threat. It was their guide, their last hope. Whatever lay ahead, humanity would have to face it together, or not at all. The Valor cut through the emptiness of space, the deep, endless void stretching before it. Each second felt like an eternity. The crew on board moved with purpose, but there was a palpable tension that clung to every corner of the ship. Rhea Malik stood at the helm, staring out at the stars, her mind occupied with the mystery that loomed ahead. The warship, which had once seemed like an implacable enemy, was now guiding them, leading them toward something far worse, something that even the vast array of human knowledge and technology couldn't predict. The coordinates had led them to an uncharted part of the galaxy, one that had remained off the records for centuries. It was a region where few ships had ventured, and even fewer had returned. The Valor was now approaching an area that defied all the known laws of physics, a place where even seasoned captains had refused to chart their course. As they approached the unknown sector, the crew remained quiet, the hum of the ship's engines the only sound breaking the silence. Rhea stood next to Aegis, her mind racing as she thought about the gravity of the situation. The warship, the once seemingly hostile ship that had destroyed so many of their fleet, was now their only guide. What would they find? What was this force that the warship had warned them about? Aegis, though a machine, seemed to sense the tension in the air, speaking up with a voice that was almost soft in comparison to its usual commanding tone. The transmission indicates that the phenomenon we're heading toward is not a conventional weapon. It's something far older, something not even the Galactic Council had records of. We may be dealing with a cosmic anomaly, not of this galaxy, or perhaps even this dimension. Rhea nodded slowly, her eyes glued to the star map. She had always trusted the data Aegis provided, but this was different. The sheer unpredictability of what lay ahead was something no one could have prepared for. What can we do once we get there? Rhea asked, her voice quiet but firm. We must attempt to study it. Aegis replied, its tone now more analytical. We need to understand its origin, its purpose, and whether it can be stopped. The warship has made it clear that it cannot confront this force alone. That's why it is guiding us, because humanity still has a chance to survive. The crew had been briefed on the situation, and though their faces reflected fear, there was also determination in their eyes. This wasn't just about survival. It was about humanity's future. They were no longer merely fighting to preserve their species. They were embarking on an unknown mission to stop something that threatened all of existence. There was no going back now. As the Valor moved deeper into the region, the stars grew fewer, their light dimming as if the darkness itself was swallowing them whole. The energy from the warship's presence became stronger, its silent signals continuing to reach out, guiding them like a lighthouse in the dark. Suddenly, the sensors on the Valor flared to life, a deep, rhythmic pulse filling the ship's monitors. The crew rushed to their stations as the massive anomaly appeared on the view screen. It was a swirling mass of energy. No star, no nebula, but a vast, expanding cloud of darkness, with pulsating lights that seemed to ebb and flow with unnatural rhythm. It looked like a black hole, yet there was no gravitational pull. Instead, it was as if the very fabric of reality was being bent and twisted, creating a cosmic disturbance unlike anything they had ever encountered. Rhea stared at it in awe and fear. This was the force the warship had warned them about. "What the hell is that?" one of the crew members asked, their voice tight with tension. It's not a natural phenomenon," Aegis responded. "It is a rift, a tear in the very fabric of space and time." Rhea's stomach churned as she absorbed the weight of Aegis's words. This was worse than any weapon. It wasn't something they could fight with missiles or lasers. This wasn't even something they could destroy with their best technology. It was as if the universe itself was unraveling. The warship, still trailing behind them, now pulsed with bright blue light, sending out a message through its glowing symbols. This time, there was no need for Aegis to decode it. The symbols formed a coherent sequence, one that was unmistakable. "We must stop it before it consumes all." Rhea's voice was barely a whisper as she spoke, her eyes locked on the swirling mass of chaos in front of them. "How?" Warship's response was quick, its symbols flashing with urgency. "Contain the rift. Seal it. Use the power of the human ship. It is the only way." The realization hit Rhea like a cold wave. The warship was telling them that their ship, the Valor, had a chance to contain the rift. It was something they had never considered before, but as crazy as it sounded, it was the only option left. "We need to find a way to create a containment field," Rhea said, turning to her crew. "Something strong enough to stabilize the rift. Aegis, do we have the capability to generate that kind of energy output?" "Not by conventional means," Aegis replied. "But there is one possibility. The Valor's experimental energy cores. If we redirect the full power of the ship's engines and augment them with the warship's technology, we might be able to create a stabilization field strong enough to halt the rift's expansion." Rhea nodded. It was a long shot, but it was their only shot. "Start the calculations. Everyone else, prepare for full energy output." As the crew scrambled to execute their orders, Rhea couldn't shake the feeling of unease that gripped her heart. Even if they could generate the energy needed to stop the rift, would it be enough? Could they really seal this cosmic wound before it consumed everything? The crew worked in a frenzy, feeding data into the ship's systems, adjusting parameters, recalibrating every device on board to generate the necessary energy. Sweat beaded on Rhea's forehead as the minutes stretched into what felt like hours. The Valor's engines roared to life as they pushed their limits, the hum of power rising to an almost unbearable level. Rhea stood at the helm, watching as the warship moved into position behind them, its glowing lights flashing like a beacon. It was as if the two ships, once enemies, had become allies, partners in a desperate race against time. With a final surge of energy, the Valor unleashed its full power. The containment field, charged by both the ship's core and the warship's technology, flared to life. It was a blinding light, so intense that Rhea had to shield her eyes. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze, time itself appearing to stretch into an endless moment. Then, the rift began to close. Slowly at first, the swirling mass of darkness began to shrink. The pulsing lights dimmed, and the violent tremors in space seemed to subside. The universe, it seemed, was healing. But Rhea knew it wasn't over. The rift had been sealed, but the cost of maintaining the stability would be immense. The Valor systems were being pushed to the brink of failure. She didn't know how long the field would hold, but it was enough for now. "We did it," she whispered, though the words felt hollow in the silence that followed. The warship, having fulfilled its purpose, turned silently away, its presence now fading into the vastness of space. It had done what it had come to do. Humanity had survived. For now. Rhea watched as the warship disappeared into the distance. She didn't know where it would go or what would happen next, but one thing was certain. Humanity had just witnessed something far beyond anything they could have ever imagined. They had stopped a cosmic force, and in doing so, they had earned their place in the galaxy.